Are you looking to grow your home care business, but you're feeling burnout, overwhelmed, just trying to juggle so many things? Well, you are going to love today's episode. My name's Nick Bonitatibus, and I am so excited to introduce Emily Isbell to talk about how you can scale your business without burnout. She's an incredible speaker, coach, author, and you're going to love today's episode. So let's dive in. So, Emily, how can home care business owners build their businesses to scale?
The number one thing is time management and recognizing how you can optimize your time as the leader and home care operator. So a little bit about my story. I wrote a book titled The 24/7 Solution, inspired by what happened to me. I had been in the business since 2007, technically, but in 2016, I was about to call it quits. I had met with an owner that was going to buy the location. I took her around. I toured her of the facilities and said all the things that were going on in the business. And as I'm doing that, I know about her having small children. And I'm just thinking, oh man, this is going to be a hard business for her to run. And I get home, I'm wrestling with all the things I might need to do before she takes over the business to help her, due to my caregiving nature, make sure she has a successful transition to owning the business and actually can survive as a business owner. And for me, I sat there, I thought through that. And the next day, maybe even in the middle of the night, I woke up and recognized if I could do that for her, if I could do all these things to help her as the next owner, why couldn't I just do that for me and make this work? And so I changed my mind in terms of us selling, and I began to implement those steps. And one of the number one things was creating a bench, is what I call it. And it's the idea of having a plan B, C, D, E, whatever it might be. And specifically in the home care world, and part of the title's reason for the title is the 24/7 aspect of home care and the on-call responsibilities that come from being in someone's home at any hour, 2 o'clock in the morning or at 2 o'clock on a Tuesday, Saturday at 3, it doesn't matter. And the unfortunate burden that can create for an owner who's responsible, and technically the buck stops with them. And so I realized I needed to develop a bench of people to where there was a process in place before any of those items, concerns escalated to me, while still making sure I manage the ones that I should manage and that would ultimately protect the business and take care of our seniors and caregivers. So big part of it is time management and recognizing how to manage your time so you can have the idea of being on a plane, and they say to put the oxygen mask on you first. You've got to be able to do that. And you can do that by setting up a bench and having depth of people beyond just on call. It's every part of the structure of the business, having certain aspects of cross training in place to help protect you from having to make the decisions for everything in the business. The second thing is having a solid structure in place and a solid team. So it's not just the team. It's not just about having A players. It's also having systems and structure in place to where you can make a B player become an A player because they understand the rules and the boundaries and the processes in place to follow. A big thing that I notice with owners is that they tend to have decision fatigue because by the time they're making a tough decision for the business, they've already had to answer some of the smallest business decisions in place, like should Susie go to Miss Jones or not? That is not something an owner should be answering. And so having a strong team, but having the structure to where they know that they don't need to ask that question of you, that they're responsible for that. And creating that strong team is all about onboarding and training and developing them to make sure that they are empowered to make those decisions. When it comes to creating a solid team and the structure around it, a good analogy I like to use with owners a lot of times is a football reference. You cannot have a play performed by 10 quarterbacks. You need a quarterback, you need a linebacker, and probably butchering the names of the positions you need, but nonetheless, you can't have 10 quarterbacks. And so figuring out who's the wide receiver, who's the quarterback, and making sure they know what their job is when they come in that day. Another analogy I use, especially in my book, is the hunter-gatherer mindset. The idea that back in our primitive time frame, we would go out and either hunt or we would gather gather for food and what we would bring to that meal. And so with owners, I like to remind them people need to know what they're bringing to the meal that day. And so for somebody who's in your recruitment, that's inquiries for caregivers. That might be interviews to conduct with caregivers. That might be hiring caregivers. For your marketer or your salesperson, that might be closing a contract with a facility, a referral partnership, or just closing a client to become a new client. So they know what they're supposed to bring to the meal every day. And so I love using that mindset and making sure not everybody's bringing grapes. We're not just having a meal full of grapes. People know what their role is. And so that together they're working to bring the meal to the business. So I really, really prefer that, like using that analogy, because as much as it's primitive, we still have this desire to want to know that we fulfilled a purpose with our day. And team members really appreciate knowing they did what they were supposed, their purpose was with their day. The third thing is to earn more profit. And really everything we've talked about is the steps you need to take to being able to do that. When you have people not doing the same job and stepping on each other's toes, they know what they're bringing to the meal, then you have the ability to work more efficiently and have things more streamlined. When you are able to have yourself taken care of because you have a bench, you have people who know where their decision-making power lands and when they need to escalate versus bothering you with the items that you need versus bothering you with things that really don't make sense for the owner to be answering, then you're able to finally breathe and look at your business differently and see that, oh, I purchased this third-party contract to outsource X, Y, or Z. I haven't even looked at that in the past 6 months. There is no evidence that it's working. And if you're in survival mode, you're not going to take the time to even do that and recognize where you're wasting money. Similarly, you're not going to look at your clients and realize where clients have opportunity because you're just in survival mode, wondering, should Susie go to that shift or not? When that is not the decisions you should be making as the owner. If you'd like to learn more and you enjoyed the information I shared today, then you can dive deeper by going to the website where the book is located at www.the247solution.com, or you can buy it wherever books are sold.